And at 20, which gets lost in translation in Malcolm's story, he goes to prison, right? At the age of 20, if I'm not mistaken.
He's at the age of 20, he's going to prison. I mean, my view was, to me, also that whole hustling time when he goes to Harlem and Boston, it's always been presented to me as if this was a full-grown 25-year-old man, as opposed to 16, 17, 18-year-old, you know? And I think that we need to put these things in perspective like that. That we're talking different development, different person. And again, this man did not spring out of nowhere. He had a family who supported him. He had, you know, experiences that he wanted to experience. And the times, you know, he was able to take advantage. And the thing is, even if you think about when he's going to jail, he's lived quite a bit of life, you know, with the hustling. And I mean, sometimes that's all people do, right? But he's able to, he's only 20 at that point. And then he goes in jail, he serves 7 years. And and then even in that, while he's in jail, Wilfred becomes a member of the Nation of Islam. He comes upon them in Detroit, and he recognizes the Garveyite philosophy there, and it resonates with him. And so he gets all of his siblings in there, and he wants to make sure Malcolm's included in that. He sends his brothers to, you know, talk to Malcolm and get him interested in this. So again, it's like we look at how it's, again, Malcolm's family is there with him. He's not sprung out of nowhere. There's a legacy. He has a lineage, and they support him. And that's important to understand that about Malcolm, because I don't know, people, I mean, you would think that Malcolm was just had nothing, and then out of nowhere, you know. So
and can you speak upon like how people call it his transformation in prison, or in my eyes, now that I'm a grown man, I see all this as transformation. You understand what I'm saying? Like it was already in him. In my humble opinion, I believe everything that Malcolm was on February 21st was already in him, you know, and he just had to, and he chose. I'm going to use the word chose, but feel free to interject, as Elijah Muhammad and NOI as his vessel. Can you elaborate on that, if you don't mind? Like,
I would say that his family gave him. What I look at is, one, I look at it. You say I look at it as evolution. Like he's evolving through these different stages. Because it's like you're changing with, and each time you get more information, you pivot, right?
Yeah.
And Malcolm doesn't want to go back into a world of crime. He doesn't want to stay in jail. That's not the place he wants to be. And plus, he's doing all the studying. He's reading all these books. He's studying history. He's studying language. I mean, man, the way he mastered language in jail is amazing. I mean, but the other thing, he had quite a good grasp on language before he got into jail. Before he went in there, he was a very good writer, by the way. Before he got into jail,
he wrote the president. He wrote the president. Yeah.
I mean, we quote from letters where he wrote to his friends, and they were, you know, they were witty and funny, and you know, and it's, his personality is there. So, but just this transformation in his choice, I look at it as really his family was providing him something to pivot into that they all supported. And, you know, and it was there for him to just look, all you have to say is you'll step into it. And he did, you know, he recognized it, and it resonated with him also. It didn't necessarily have to. And his family was right there. Like his brothers, you know, were the ones that convinced him. Like we talk about in the book, how Reginald was the one that went there to talk to Malcolm about, you know, going, you know, accepting the Nation of Islam's tenets and learning more about Elijah Muhammad and learning this name. And he talked to him in a way that Malcolm understood. And Malcolm was, you know, but let's also keep in mind, Malcolm was ready. You can't force a person to change unless they're ready, right? So he was already evolving too, because he didn't want to be in jail, and he knew he got a rough sentence because of his involvement with those women, when he got into jail too. So he, you know, there were things that he was trying to figure out, and he wanted to, but there were more things that he wanted to do. He wanted to live. So getting into the Nation of Islam was great. You know, it was familial. It was familiar to him. It allowed him to grow. Like he could come out and just start, you know, recruiting.
Sure.
That's what he was doing. I mean, how many places they immediately let you do that, you know? So he got a job and he moved back to, you know, back to Detroit area, and he moved in with this couple who were members of the nation. He and the husband were very involved. Like, he was devising different ways of how to approach and recruit people. And he's recruiting a lot of young people who are more educated too. And this was kind of the people who were joining the nation at that point in the Midwest were blue collar workers. So there was not, you know, so there was tension in that even. And so this change, this, you know, a lot of jealousies and envy developed with other members and older members who were there, and they were trying. But, you know, when Elijah Muhammad would talk to, for example, the man that he stayed, Mustafa Hussein, you know, how do you feel about Malcolm being? He said he's great. He said other people have problems with him, but this is what we're doing. We're actually increasing the numbers, the membership, and Elijah Muhammad was happy to hear that. So, you know, but it wasn't a good fit for him in the sense that the envy and the jealousies that were already developing there. So what Elijah Muhammad had to do was kind of sit him down, say, slow down. This is not, you know, you're going too fast. And Malcolm was like, wait a minute, but we're supposed to go fast. And Elijah was like, no. And he said, look, I need you to sit down. But then he said, I'm going to send you out east and you can pick your temple. So he started with Boston. And so again, starting that whole Northeast, he ended up going up and down the East Coast, from Boston all the way down to Philadelphia. And just, you know, and this is what he loved it. You know, he loved it. And it was a better fit for him. He recruited people that, you know, he recruited a lot of more of the educated people who were going into colleges and stuff like that, and really get to them. And he loved that, you know, and he was so good at that's why he grew so fast. I mean, he was sitting over there like 57, 58, you know, actually earlier than that, 55, because I think about some people who had seen him preaching, he was 55, you know. And he just got out of jail a couple of years before.
Right.
So he was growing. He was growing.